That was The Last Party by Skyborn Blue, and you're listening to IPL Radio this New Year's Eve. I nearly said Christmas Eve, but that's gone. That's done. Christmas is over.
You're in the past, my guy.
I'm always living in the past. We're joined by Krispin, who is something of a community theatre, I want to say legend, is probably not the right word, guru.
Yeah, look, maybe. I don't like having spare time, so most of my spare time is spent with community theatre. And I think that's a pretty good way to be.
Yeah, you got to get rid of that free time somehow.
That's it. It's a good excuse, right?
And you're like a part of 6 or so community theatre groups, you were saying?
Yeah, look, I move around a bit because what I do for a job is that I'm a music teacher, so obviously I sort of follow the shows that have the most opportunities to be in the orchestra or the band. Mm-hmm. I also direct musical theatre and theatre as well. So I move around with different theatres, Phoenix Theatre, I've done some work down at MPAC, Mandurah Theatres, that kind of stuff, help out front of house in the bars at places like Stirling and that kind of thing, so I'm moving around all the time.
Yeah, cool, busy. What do you teach just a particular instrument?
I specialise in woodwinds, so mostly clarinet, flute, saxophone, but I also teach oboe and bassoon, and I teach voice and brass instruments as well, so just a big old nerd, really.
Yeah, I love it. Cool, I'm struggling with the guitar, that's it. You got 2 Fringe shows coming up, I heard you saying a moment ago.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So the Fringe is starting in a couple of weeks' time. We like to think of it as next year, but next year is tomorrow, so that's, that's great. So one of the shows is a show that I'm directing, which is a kids show, so it's a great show for kids to come and see. It's a bit of a pantomime as well, so they can interact with the characters on stage and boo and hiss and shout things at them, nice things or silly things, we don't mind.
Awesome.
And that one's called Little Good Wolf, so it's a fairy tale story about the son of the big bad wolf, and he has to go through and find all the fairy tale characters that his dad sort of messed up, that he was the bad part of their story. So he finds Little Red Riding Hood and has to sort of apologise for his dad eating her grandma. And he finds the 3 little pigs and has to apologise for his dad blowing down their houses and all of that kind of thing. So it's got a really nice family-friendly moral, as most fairy tales do. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun along the way. There's lots of jokes, lots of puns. There's a conga dancing line of sheep at one point in time.
Oh, very cool.
Wonderful. That sounds wonderful, yeah.
Yeah, look, it'll be a lot of fun. And that one's going to be down at in Fremantle at DADAA. So that's sort of near Clancy's Fish Pub in Fremantle. So there's a little Fringe hub out there as well as a lot of stuff in the city. And the other show that I'm involved in is called Art. It's a play by a Tony Award-winning playwright called Yasmina Reza. So she's a French playwright, and it's a story about 3 friends who've had a long friendship that all sort of starts to fall apart when one of the friends spends $20,000 on a giant painting that is all completely white. And one of the friends doesn't really understand, and the other one can't abide by it. He thinks that's completely ridiculous. There's a lot of humour in that. And for that one, I'm just sitting in the back corner playing some incidental music and sort of pointing out the more humorous parts of the show.
Cool. Yeah. I find that one, is there like a poignant meaning that you're trying to induce into there?
Well, I mean, as artists, as theatre people, musicians, visual artists, dancers, we can sort of get caught up into our meanings and all of that kind of stuff. We can become a little bit preachy. So, art, we're actually performing inside an art gallery, so it really goes to analyse and evaluate the relationship that we have as artists with our art, and that relationship that art can have with audience members as well.
So a very meta commentary within the art gallery space.
Absolutely, yeah. It sort of stacks on stacks.
Layers.
So,
And it sounds like it'd be a really cool night out as well. You go to the art gallery, look at some art, see community theatre. Yeah, 100%. Cool stuff.
And like the Fringe Festival, there's so much stuff on. There's local acts, there's international acts, there's interstate acts. People that you would know from comedy TV come and do comedy shows. You'd know them from TikTok. Gabby Bolt's coming down and doing a show. Yes. So she was one of the people that wrote the Ratatouille musical during lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That was a really big thing on TikTok. It sort of had collaborators all over the world. Then they filmed it all while everybody was in lockdown, and then they put it all up on TikTok and YouTube to raise money for Broadway Cares, I think it was.
Oh, wow, awesome stuff. That's really cool.
There's heaps of people coming to Perth for the next month or so, and we can do that now that the borders are open and everything's happening again. So we're all throwing everything that we've got behind it and hoping for the best and hoping none of our casts end up, unwell and that kind of thing, because that's been a worry for the last couple of years.
Definitely.
But we're really keen to get back out there and welcome audiences back to the different spaces, and the whole city gets activated by it. There's, a fringe hub in the city,
yes,
all through Yagan Square and out through the pleasure gardens that they call it there in Northbridge, and there's also other hubs out through Subiaco and into Fremantle as well.
Yeah. Is it going to be hard timing for you if you're doing a kids show in Fremantle and at galleries you're going to be running from one?
Look, definitely, yeah. Luckily, I've sort of managed to shoehorn my calendar around, but I'm also working on a show with a school up in Bunbury. So for one of the shows, I'm actually down in Bunbury rehearsing all day and then coming back to the art gallery to do a show that evening. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're doing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the musical, down in Bunbury.
Cool.
And just playing in the orchestra for that, and that's going to be a lot of fun as well. The kids are doing really well with that.
Did you have to write that, or is there a Charlie?
That's a real musical, Broadway musical. That's actually written by the same people that wrote Hairspray, the musical.
Oh, so, cool.
Yeah, and I think Christian Ball, who is very famous on Broadway, did a lot of bit parts on like CSI and all of that kind of stuff. He was originally the Broadway Willy Wonka, I think. I think I've got that right.
Right. Cool. So apart from the two groups that you're doing Fringe shows with, some of your other groups, they got stuff coming up maybe after Fringe?
Yeah, look, a lot of theatre companies have just sort of finished up their big seasons, and we've had this thing called the Finley Awards, which are coming up as well, which is done by the Independent Theatre Association of WA, so the ITA, and they're hosting the Robert Finley Awards. So every theatre company in WA gets the opportunity to have their shows adjudicated by a special panel, and they come out and see the shows and tell us how well we're doing, what we can improve on, that kind of thing. And then we do a big awards ceremony in January every year, and we get nominations, the best 5 musicals, the best 5 plays, best costumes, best actress, best musical director, best choreographer, best set, all of that kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Best new writing, all of those sort of things. So it's a big affair, a bit like the Oscars or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun. We get to dress up a bit, and sometimes at the one year it was at the Heath Ledger Theatre in the city. So that was a really nice to do. I think that was for the 25th anniversary of that. So it's nice to get all of the theatres coming together, and we get to compare and celebrate basically what everybody's been doing for the last year. So that's a lot of fun. I don't have any nominations this year, but that's okay.
You'll get them next year.
That's it. I'll get them. I'll get them eventually. But this year, one of the shows that I worked on, which was a youth musical with Stirling Theatre, Stirling Players down in Innaloo, we did a production of Anne of Green Gables, which was a really nice story that you don't see done very often anymore. It's just been made into a Netflix show, but ours had a lot more singing and dancing. And luckily enough, our lead actress, young Jenny, who played Anne, she's managed to get a nomination for Best Youth in a Musical. So that's really cool.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool. Congratulations to Jenny, was it?
Yes, Jenny. Yeah, Jennifer.
Jenny, right. Yeah. I'm thinking Harry Potter, Jenny. Jenny.
Well, she still had the carrot hair. So red hair,
cool.
hand-me-down robes, the same kind of thing.
Nice. So we should do a production of Annie.
I've actually played in the orchestra for 5 productions of Annie, so I might be all orphaned out.
Right, yeah.
I thought you were going to say I played Annie, and I'm like, wow, look, good character study, good...
You never know. That's the beauty of live theatre, and especially community theatre, is on Broadway you have actors that are understudies and swings, and they're sort of paid to hang around in the wings. With community theatre, we're all volunteers. Most of the time, everybody you see on stage and everybody you see behind the scenes are all there because they love it. They love what they do, and they love passing on their gifts and their skills to the community. So sometimes you actually get a situation where somebody does fall ill on the night of the show, and you have to find an understudy from somewhere, or you have to say to the audience, go away. Thank you for coming. Come again another time. And one evening during Anne of Green Gables, actually, Jenny herself wasn't able to make it. She'd fallen ill. So our sound operator actually came down from the booth. We threw a wig on her, and we threw an iPad at her with the script. I went up into the sound booth to run the mics and the backing tracks, and she went on stage for Anne. So that was was quite an undertaking. So that's
not really an actress.
Well, she is. She's actually Red Riding Hood in our Little Good Wolf production.
Oh, okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah, we all sort of, well, not all of us, but that's the another beauty of community theatre is that if you have a specialization, like I started as a musician, I was like, hi, I'm a nerd that plays a lot of different things. What can I do? And they were like, cool, sit there in the dark, play some music, that'll be fine. And then they were like, hey, we need more guys in this show. Do you think you could learn to dance and sing? And I was like, well, maybe. So I spent a couple of years doing chorus roles down in Albany. I was the Duchess's hedgehog in Alice in Wonderland. So that was a very pivotal role and one of the oysters that got eaten. I moved up through the ranks of the chorus, and then when I moved up to Perth, I played in more orchestras and that kind of stuff. And I've also had some lead roles in some theatre productions. I've done set design, costume design, backstage, all of that kind of stuff. So you learn from the people that are around you, and some are professional musicians, professional stage hands, professional costume designers, and some are just, geologists or school teachers or whatever that, love the theatre and love what they do. And so it becomes a lovely sort of family and a lovely community that you're always a part of. So
that sounds very cool.
It is. It's a great home away from home, and sort of once you've been in a couple of shows, you'll find that you'll get a call for the next show, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're short of this. Can you come down and help with this?" Or, they'll be like, "Oh, we need a judge's robe for this show. I remember 3 years ago that lady wore that in that scene for that show. So we'll call up that theatre and we'll see what they're doing and we'll see if we can borrow that." So yeah, it is a real fun time, and it's just a great community to be a part of. 97.5% of the time. Yeah. It does get a bit tiring sometimes, of course, but as the previous team that was on here was saying, once you learn to slow down a little bit and take a breath, it is always quite enjoyable.
Yeah. Cool. So obviously you started with music and you've branched out into all these different things. Are you still favouring the music side of things, or are you leaning in certain directions when you're...
Yeah, look, that's a great question. I love music, obviously. I'm a music teacher by trade. That's what I do. But the strange thing that sort of happened over COVID is everybody realised that, to have 20 people on stage and then 20 people in the orchestra and 20 people backstage and all of that kind of stuff, there's a lot of opportunities for cross-contamination, breathing on each other, spitting on each other, when you're playing instruments like that. So there's a lot of really awesome backing tracks have managed to come out. So a lot of live music and live orchestras are being replaced by apps on iPads or MacBooks and that kind of stuff, which is simultaneously brilliant and terrifying, obviously, because if you've got live music, you can cover for somebody that's fallen over, or somebody that's stuck in a costume change, and you just keep repeating that particular bar, but the CD's not going to know that. So it's always nice to be able to keep your options open. But I do love the music side of things. Like for Anne of Green Gables, I was the musical director, so that means I'm the person in charge of teaching all the songs and the harmonies and that kind of thing. A lot of the musical directors in Perth do have the opportunity to pick whether they'll have a backing track or a live band and that kind of thing, depending on the space, because some of us perform at big, huge theatres like Mandurah Performing Arts Centre or Coolini Arts Centre, where they've got a little bit more space, and others of us sort of perform in your memorial halls and your community halls, where you've sort of got to shove the 20-piece orchestra into the bingo room that the senior citizens use on the weekend, sort of thing. So it's a fine line and a bit of a juggling act to be a musical director, and also it's tricky to find 20 musicians that are able to pick up the score for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat or that kind of stuff, and just look at it and play it, because you don't have time to have them along for as many rehearsals as you might with the cast, and some of the parts are really, really hard, so it's difficult to get musicians of the caliber who are willing and able to volunteer their time. So we're really lucky with the core of musicians that we've got, like in our sort of contacts on our phone that we get to call on every other show or every couple of shows. I'm very, very glad to have those sort of friends around that are happy to do that.
Yeah. Are there certain musical instruments that are harder to fill than others?
Yeah, yes, especially with musicals. A lot of people wouldn't know this, but the reed parts or the woodwind parts, they are very rarely you sit there and play clarinet, because of the amount of different sounds that they want for a musical. You want your love themes and your dance numbers and your jazz and your tap and that kind of thing. Almost every book for a reed player on Broadway has 3, 4, 5 different instruments. So for instance, for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that I'm doing, I have to play clarinet, bass clarinet, tenor sax, baritone sax, and bassoon.
Right.
So 5 different
Just
instruments.
dropping an instrument, pick one up.
Yeah, it's almost like you need a catcher in the pit sometimes, because there's sometimes you'll get like 5 or 6 bars to make the change, and other times you have to do it like while the one pause is happening and they're waiting for the audience to clap, and you have to throw an instrument and pick up the next one. So it can be quite tricky to find people with that kind of skill set. We're really lucky to have, about 6 to 10 of us in Perth that really specialise in doing that. Friends that some of them I met when I came up to Perth, and some I went to high school with. So some of them I've met through university as well, so going to WAPA at ECU and UWA. So those kind of contacts are really valuable to have. And even on Broadway, when they tour the musicals, they reduce the orchestrations down further and further. So a lot of the parts that are harder to staff, like a lot of string players or oboes and bassoons, which are the double reed instruments, which are hard to play, they'll get rid of them and they'll put them into a keyboard part. So then you have to learn how to program the keyboard to make them sound like all of those other instruments. Yeah. So it's really a really interesting rabbit hole to go down. But so is every other role in musical theatre and theatre in general. Like there are so many different ways you could just direct the same scene. You could have the same conversation with a happy motivation or an angry motivation. We, after a rehearsal for art the other night, we spent about 40 minutes just discussing the motivation of 6 lines and how we could deliver them. And that's just to play with like 3 characters. So it's really quite interesting to open up all of the different avenues and explore them, and with some very experienced actors, some very experienced musicians, and some people that are brand new to the craft and just wanting to get out there and have a go.
Yeah. Cool stuff. Are you like looking for new actors at the moment? Because personally, for me, I'm interested. I kind of want to just go online. I'll give it a shot.
Look, every community theatre does it slightly different. So we have. I don't remember the last count. There's about conservatively, I'm going to say about 15 different groups, and they're all sort of spread out. So you've got like Stray Cats down in Mandurah. You've got Darlington Theatre players. You've got Stirling players. You've got the Irish Theatre players. The list goes on and on and on. I'm not going to be able to name them all off the top of my head, and hopefully none of them will have my head for that.
We got the RTC around the corner. I'll bring them up.
Of course, Rockingham Theatre Company. They just did a production of a psychological thriller called Rope, which I actually auditioned for. I didn't get in, but that's okay. I'm not bitter. Maybe I am.
That's why you mentioned them. So.
Fair enough.
No, they've got a lovely team down at Rockingham Theatre, and a lovely venue. I do often try and get down and help out on the bar as well. So that's the other aspect of it is, if you can't be involved on stage, you can be involved, backstage, making costumes, making tea and coffee, serving at the bar, cleaning up afterwards. So there's always an option to do that. So if you are interested, you could start at the Independent Theatre Association of WA website, because that would list all of the theatre groups that are affiliated with them for the current year. And if you are uncertain of anything that goes on, just, find their website, find an email, find a Facebook. A lot of us are all attached to our socials. The UWA Pantomime Society, which is the group that's doing Little Good Wolf at Fringe, they've got a TikTok as well, so you can find them on TikTok and follow them. So there's always different sort of ways to contact, and there's always ways to become a member, either for behind the scenes, set making, prop making, that kind of thing, or on the scenes, just auditioning for whatever roles you can come up with. There's a lot of Facebook pages, Perth actors, Perth auditions, that kind of thing,
cool.
To get out there. And then there's a lot of people that do acting coaching and singing coaching as well, if you find that you're not landing the auditions that you want to get. But the interesting thing is, no matter what sort of gender role you're looking for, usually you will never find enough of them, because we have a massive shortage usually of male roles in theatre, because unfortunately in high school and that kind of thing, it's a very easy topic for people to pick on and bully. Male presenting people in the arts do cop a lot of flack. So when we're out of that sort of high school environment, we find that we do have a quite shortage of male presenting actors to fill roles and that kind of stuff. So I do always encourage anyone, obviously anyone, but anyone male especially, male presenting, to come down to their local theatre company and see if they can throw their hat in the ring, because there is always usually a need for them. There's actually a Facebook group called Never Enough Men, because every second show you'll find yourself missing, some sort of spectrum of character, whether it be men or ladies that can dance or people of colour. I know that Sterling Theatre are doing a production of Mice and Men very soon, and they were, I'm not sure if they still are, but they were for a while struggling to find the right people of colour to fill the roles that you need for that particular show. So it's always, a great opportunity for anybody from any walk of life to come down to the theatre and just sort of, say, hi, I exist. Because if you don't do that, you'll not, the theatre won't think about exploring those possibilities and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
But then you also have to admit to yourself that you exist, and that's
that's it. Absolutely. No, 100%. It's very, very easy to be like, don't perceive me. I just want to blend in the background.
Yeah.
I want to be, chorus boy number 7 or something.
Which is why we put ourselves on radio. No one knows who I am in the street. It's great.
Yeah.
That's it, exactly.
I pull a little slightly sunny, funny voice here as well, so it's extra.
No one will ever know. That's it.
But yeah, no, I have noticed that because I've been to a few community theatre shows and they've had the female actresses coming out and they've got the fake mustache on. I'm Joey.
That's it. It does happen quite a bit. Sometimes it's written that way, like in pantomimes. You often have a role that's called a dame role, so that's usually written for somebody who's male in a sort of drag, female presenting persona. Actually, the role of Miss Trunchbull in Matilda, which has just become a Netflix movie, was written as a dame role. So it was written for somebody who was a man to dress up as a woman. So there was a lot of comedy elements in that role, as well as the villain sort of, mean, nasty teacher role.
Yeah, that makes sense. With all the sports references in the movie, jab on shot put. Yeah, okay.
That's it. And not to say that obviously females can't do those kind of sports, because of course they can, but like on stage having, somebody who is, 6'4" and ripped and that kind of stuff, chucking on a skirt and a schoolmistress's outfit, it's quite funny, and the kids are able to maybe relate to it a bit more than perhaps how they did it in the movie recently, because they know they can be scared of that person, but they can also laugh at that person. There was the bad, like the mean nanny in Mary Poppins the musical, which is a little bit different from the movie. Was also a dame role initially, and then there's lots of pantomimes, where they have the best boy, who's usually a girl, and the dame, who's usually a boy. So it keeps you on your toes, definitely. But yeah, there's always lots of opportunities for laughs and expression and that kind of stuff, and to either express yourself or to express somebody else, which is a nice sort of escape sometimes.
Definitely.
Let's give another place where people can find those 2 fringe shows that are happening.
Yes.
So we definitely want audience members showing up to that.
Yes, 100%.
So
that's the thing.
The media spaces
that we're really finding as a struggle since COVID and all of that kind of stuff have happened. People leave booking to the last minute, second, because, there were so many things where you book tickets and then they would be cancelled and you may or may not get refunds. So, of course, the policies and procedures for refunds and all that kind of thing have increased and been tightened down and locked down a lot more.
Does that lock down?
You're not wrong. Locked in? No, that's also bad. So if you jump onto the Fringe World website, which I should be able to find within a matter of seconds.
Okay, cool.
And the Fringe World website is absolutely brilliant. There's a lot of search tools, so you can search for your favourite genre of show if you're looking for a children's show or a burlesque show or a fire twirling show or anything like that. So the address is fringeworld.com.au. And there's plenty of things where you can search via the date that you're free to go and see a show or the kind of show that you want to see. You can make your own login and your own profile, so you can sort of build your calendar up and fill up your entire January, February. And there's so much stuff that you can see at Fringe. You might go and see a magician down in the city. There might be, I know there's a adults only bubble show, which is an interesting concept, really, isn't it? Couple of fire twirling acts. There's a lot of LGBTQI2A plus sort of queer presenting shows. That some of them are burlesque shows or theatre shows or cabaret shows, and other ones are sort of more social activism and preachy is not quite the right word, but shows with a message that really make you stop and think. So like a social change kind of show. And then there's of course some musicals that will be happening and some straight, like legit plays and that kind of stuff. Lots of stand-up comedy and all that kind of thing as well. So something for everybody. Lots of shows you can bring your grandparents to. Lots of shows you can't bring your grandparents to.
I'm pretty sure in the next segment we've got to bring up missed an interview with a Jeff Watts, and he's going to be down at the Fringe show. Jez Watts. Jez. So he's a comedian. He's got 4.5 stars from over Melbourne, so he'll be down there.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, lots of comedians coming from interstate and in the state as well. Last year, I'm not sure if he's coming back this year, but Pete Rosethorn from Kath and Kim. He did a couple of nights at the Fringe in a couple of different bars. So, yeah, there's your local celebrities, your actual celebrities, and that kind of stuff, and your Fringe celebrities as well. And the Perth Fringe, I think, is the second largest Fringe festival in the world.
Okay.
I think the only bigger one is Edinburgh Fringe. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun, a lot of work as well, a lot of fun and a lot of sweat and tears.
Yeah. And it's worth getting in and booking now because I find I always forget about Fringe. Like, I want to go to Fringe. Fringe is over, man. You missed it.
yeah, that's it. January can be a hectic time, with the school holidays and so much other stuff going on, Boxing Day sales and all that kind of stuff, which sort of extend until Easter, and hot cross buns being in stores already. So yeah, I'm happy, but a lot of people on Facebook aren't. But it's very easy to miss. So there's a lovely handy calendar and favourites section on the Fringe website that you can sort of schedule yourself, and you can do what we like to call a Fringe binge. Like you can literally go and see one show and then leave that venue, walk out and go sort of next door and see another completely different show, or you can even sort of stay in the same venue and see 3 or 4 shows back to back. Last year I think I went to the court in the city and I saw the Perth Saxophone Rockers, which is a group led by Aaron Royer, who I went to university with ages and ages ago, and they do covers of AC/DC, and you would have seen them at the grand final with Mark McGowan and all that kind of stuff rocking out on their saxophones. So they did a show there, and then the next thing was a cabaret presented by another local theatre colleague of mine, Kiara. She did a whole cabaret based on how the fact that nobody can say her name right. I think I got it right. She'll tell me later. So she did a show called Kiara with a K, which was sort of a variety number where you had some tap dancing and some comedy and some burlesque and all of that kind of stuff. And that was all in the same venue.
That's so much fun,
and then the venue sort of shuts down as a venue and becomes themselves again. So it's the court, it's a nightclub, and you can have a drink and dance the night away and do whatever you like.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting down there.
That's it.
Before I went ahead and played a song, was there anyone you wanted to give a shout out to?
That's a great question. I think some people from the productions that I'm directing and part of should be listening. Otherwise, they'll be in trouble. So I'll give a shout out to the cast of Little Good Wolf, presented by the UWA Panto Society. And I'll give a shout out to the cast and crew of Art, presented by Company O, who are also doing the Fringe this year as well.
Wonderful.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming down,
No
Chris.
Worries. Thank you.
Crispin.
That's it.
In my mind, I was like, Pin's the last name, but I realised it was wrong.
It could be a very short last name.
Yeah. I can't help but think of Pin and Chip, that comedy duo. Yeah, it's a very obscure reference.
I know Penn and Teller.
That's
but
I was thinking of Penn and Teller. Chip and Dale.
The Mitchell and Webb look, hey, was a very obscure...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You had to be there.
Yeah. Ignore me. Alrighty, so this is Secrets by Regard and Ray.